All right, welcome everyone to another Empires and Puzzles Books interview. My name is Jeff, otherwise known as JekylandHyde in-game and Empires and Puzzles Books online on YouTube and elsewhere. So I am very fortunate today, we're all very fortunate today that we have an opportunity to talk with GUVNOR. He is, I'm not sure which role he's best known for, but he is an active moderator on the Small Giant forums, and he is also a key member of 7 Days Hunting. And he is just a master of knowledge and information about this game. So we're going to get to tear apart some interesting aspects that we have not talked about yet in some of the other interviews. So, GUVNOR, if I may start off, where's the name come from?
It's a bit of a long one. I was in high school. I had a couple friends, and we used to just do various accents at each other. And for me to switch into an accent or whatever, I sort of have little phrases that I remembered. And for the British one, it was Governor, and yeah, it kind of stuck. And I used it as my gaming moniker ever since, really. So,
all right, interesting history there. Yeah, if folks can't tell by GUVNOR's accent, he is down under. He is in Australia, so it is early in the morning for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, just woke up about half an hour ago. So
yeah, so early in the morning for him and going into evening for me. We're on opposite sides of the world, so gotta love technology and phone games to bring people together across continents.
Yeah.
So just as a kind of a verbal table of contents on where we're going today, we're going to be talking about the damage calculation. This is something that confuses many players. Like, how do we actually figure out what kind of damage we're doing to the enemy? We're going to be talking about some critical damage points. We're going to talk about troops and Titan loot. GUVNOR did a really big Titan loot project. And then if we have some time, maybe we'll talk about what the moderating of the boards looks like. The boards being the Small Giant forum, and maybe get into some concerns about the dollars that are being spent on summoning. So let's jump in. I'm going to kind of just hand the floor over to you. Let's educate people on the damage calculator. How do we figure out damage when we're actually selecting heroes and looking at enemies and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so what most people don't seem or have a underlying knowledge of is the actual maths behind the game. A lot of people go in with it's random, there's no real logic behind any of it. Realistically, everything in the game is actually governed by a strict series of mathematical relationships and formulas and stuff. So I can't claim to have worked them all out. I'm not that much of a data nerd or anything like that. But I've sort of kept across as much of it as I can. So in terms of the damage calculation itself, there's an awesome forum thread where a couple guys that are absolutely dedicated to data collection and that they've plotted thousands of data points relating to the damage that they've seen, tried to fit a curve to it to come up with the relationship or an approximate relationship between the various functions in the game and how that comes out with a number of damage that gets done. So in terms of the maths itself, it's a relationship between the attack stat and the defense stat of the two heroes in question. And then it sort of takes into account any modifiers that are in there. So, your troops, any buffs or ailments that are in effect, as well as anything like, if there's any special conditions that are on some hero skills, like, for example, Gravemaker with his extra damage against green heroes. And then, it then runs it through the calculation, which is it's a power-based function, and then spits out a number, which does have in it a random function. So the people are correct there. It is all random to some extent. But even that random function is governed by, pardon me, upper and lower boundaries in terms of the numbers that you can expect to see in that. So yeah, it's all kind of cool. And there's actually ongoing work on that very project in the last little while by a guy named Zach. He's been diving a bit deeper into the formula and how some of the different buffs are actually kicking in. So it's only been recently that he's shown that someone like Wukong's buff actually affects the damage calculation slightly differently for tile damage versus special skill damage. And I'm still catching up on all of that. It's insane the level of detail that some of these guys have gone into. And yeah. You checked yourself on mute.
Yeah, I keep doing that to worry about the wind. Thanks.
That's all good.
So it is impressive the amount of work people put into deconstructing how this works. And it is worth reminding people there's really 3 different ways the damage calculator is applied. And that's through specials, through tiles, and the defensive slash attack. If you're not familiar, when the defenders fire that kind of little attack at you, that's called the slash attack. Now, when you were talking about the random part of there is a random factor in that formula, and without getting too confusing, the easiest way for a player to see that is if you're on a basic map and you have 3 enemies and you use a hero that hits 3 equally. That's why you'll see like 42, 52, 48. So it's
correct.
It's the same damage formula, but that factor, so it's just a little nudge, slightly higher or lower, but that can sometimes make the difference between a kill or not.
It can, yeah. So it's for anyone that is actually mathematically interested in it, it is a binomial distribution of an exponential function. So it's binomially distributed around exp 0 or 1 is what that equals to. And then it's bounded by exp negative 5 and exponent negative 0.5 and exponent 0.5. So what it ranges out to is it can anywhere between 0.6 and 1.6 times the base damage that you would calculate normally.
So here's a harder question for you, and I'll be super happy and impressed if you have the answer. Do you have any reason why the damage calculation on tiles includes all heroes attack number of the same color? That's where the stacking comes from, but it's not included in the attack stack when we're applying specials.
It is a bit of a weird one because within tile damage as well, it kind of breaks it down on an individual tile basis when it applies troop effects. So in terms of, we'll just look at the 4-star troops. You've got crit troops, mana troops, and ninja troops. So your crit troops have the chance to give crit damage. Your ninja troops have the chance to bypass, and your mana troops just give extra mana to the equipped hero. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the crit and the ninja troop, their effects don't apply to, or they don't have the chance to proc for every single tile. It's only the tiles that are actually attributed to those troops. So, when you make your match, you can see the little troops marching up the board going and hitting the enemy. The bypass for a ninja troop will only appear or only have the chance to proc if it's attributed as a ninja troop kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, it is a little weird that, you get every hero's attack stat dropped in when you do tile matches kind of thing in the damage calculation there, because it does get broken down on the tile level to individual hero allocations anyway. So I guess what I'm saying is, no, I've got absolutely no idea why they chose to do it that way. Right. There is an argument for simplicity, but then they've gone and blown that argument away by making it complex in terms of the troop allocations for the bonuses. So from the hero perspective, it makes sense because the skill isn't like the special skill is coming from a specific hero. So it's just Liana that's, shooting at arrows kind of thing. It's not Liana, Kingston, Eve, and whoever else might be in that team. It's just her. So from that side of things, it makes sense. But in terms of tile damage, I suspect it might have been derived from the Titan battlefield kind of thing, because, how annoying would it be if you're only doing 50 tile damage to a Titan, which has got 50 million HP kind of thing. It's just never going to work. So I suspect it may have been derived from that side of things, but yeah, no idea.
That is a probably wise insight for anyone who's not seen it, because there tends to be this obsession with mana troops. So if you're stacking and you're only using mana troops, the troops will all look the same to you when they go up the board. So if you would like to see what GUVNOR's talking about, go ahead and equip like 3 heroes of the same color and give them one of each troop type. And if if you're quick at watching it or record it and go back, you'll actually see different troops. You can have 3 troops. Yeah. 3 different troops in the same 3-tile match. So it's an interesting thing to see, and it kind of was a little eye-opening when I saw that. So the math for the formula, and I'll have that up across this video while we're chatting.
Sure.
For some folks, that's going to be a pretty complex formula. So let's break down for the lay person who just wants to play the game and get better. So let's talk on the most simplistic level. What's more important, increasing attack or reducing the enemy's defense?
Even that's not straightforward, honestly. Realistically, they should have the same overall effect for an effect of the same percentage. So when they go into the calculation, the attack goes in on the numerator, so the top side of a division line, and the defense goes in on the bottom side, the denominator side. So if you apply a 43% buff and a minus 43% defense, we'll go back. If you apply a 43% attack buff and they've got a 43% defense buff, in theory, the two will cancel each other out and you'll end up with no change. And that is essentially how it works in practice. But when you then get into coming from the attacking team where you've got an attack buff and you're looking at defense ailments, so defense debuffs, if you look into the actual numbers, they're actually not even kind of thing. So usually a defense ailment is slightly larger than the attack buffs. Just general rule of thumb. I know that's not the case for every single one. You know, you've got newer heroes coming out which are giving bigger attack buffs. Like I think Krampus does 50% attack versus most of the attackers' attack buffs previously were down in, 34, 44% range kind of thing. So there are new heroes and new skills coming out. So that's not necessarily true all the time. My personal preference is to control my side of the board. So I tend to prefer to go for buffs because, that's on my side. I can control it and all that kind of thing. Whereas, the ailments on their side, as soon as you kill someone, you've lost that ailment. But, it's a bit of a mix and match. So the answer, I guess, to the question is whichever one has the higher percentage is the one that's going to be most effective, because they do go in on numerator and denominator side of things. So, but the thing to remember as well is that the ailments side of things is a negative X. So if you've got a minus 54% defense debuff or whatever, you're actually applying a 0.46% multiplier on into the maths itself. So don't multiply in by, if someone is going to try and do the maths themselves, don't multiply in 0.54 because that's not going to be the way it works. But yeah, realistically, it comes out as whichever one has the higher percentage is the one that's going to have the bigger effect on the damage calculation in the end. But if you can get both, why not do both?
Excellent. So another point worth making, generally speaking, I would say Small Giant's really good about being careful with their language on the cards. So if they're talking about an attack increase, they're talking about the attack stat on your hero card versus a damage increase, which is the percentage of damage. And that's another thing that I've, and I made the mistake too. When Glenda first came out, I was like, wow, she's given this awesome attack boost. And then after I started playing with her, I was like, wait a minute, she's not hitting nearly as hard as I thought she was going to. And then I realized it doesn't increase her attack or her neighbor's attack. It increases the damage. So the difference is significant.
Yeah, it is. So I think we had a bit of a conversation on your Teltalk walkthrough back in December, November time, I think, where we sort of ran through some of the numbers in terms of the firing order and that. But yeah, in the case of Glenda, she does only boost the special skill percentage damage, and it's an additive effect. That was something that actually confused the hell out of the beta testers when she came out, and there was some guys that worked really hard to actually nail down what it was. I think the Pirate King was one of them, and I think RFM and Epigenic were something. But anyway, there was a couple guys that they actually worked through, created a thread for the devs to respond to, and they did confirm that it is just adding a percentage onto the special skill. So someone goes from 300 to 340% direct damage. So
now what I find interesting is we just went through all of that question and answer with Glenda, and now they just came out with these new cards they have actually a new language that's confusing. So if you look at Gargamel, that was just released for season 4, it says on Gargamel's first hit, she has an increase in power. So it doesn't say damage or attack. And that's also unclear. From the data that I've seen, it looks like she's behaving like Glenda, not like an attack boost.
On Gargemel, you said? Or Akarog?
No, well, Akarog does it as well, right? Or no, wait, Akarog is who I was talking about. Does Gargemel do the boost on the... Well, either way.
She gets ailment duration increase.
Correct. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Sorry.
I keep forgetting about Akarog because it's the hero I did not get yet. But Akarog has the 30%...
In the case of Akarog...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it does actually execute the same way as Glenda's buff does. Mm-hmm. The problem is that there's a bit of a bug in that one at the moment, in that it's only applying to the damage done to the target, not to the nearby as well, when realistically the entire special skill should get the plus 30%. So he should be doing 310% damage to the target and nearby enemies, rather than what he is doing at the moment, which is doing 310% to the target and the 280% damage to the nearby. So it will eventually execute the same way as Glenda's does, where he just gets a direct increase. I think there's a couple others in the season 4 heroes that do the same, or have that same passive ability. I think Griffin's one of them, the 4-star, and then there's a couple more coming out as well.
I'm trying to get better about being careful with reading the cards and getting not too excited when I read them, that I'm thinking it's going to do this huge thing where it's still, it's still significant. I'm still very pleased with Glenda. I mean, on her own, she hits 3 pretty hard, and that little boost definitely matters, especially for the challenge events, Ninja Tower and things like that. So I am pleased with her, but it was not the earth shattering, she's no Mickey.
No. But it's on Mickey. It's actually really interesting. He was not widely touted as being amazing originally. And it's actually been kind of interesting with a lot of heroes as well in the past. Gravemaker, for example, when he first came out, everyone thought he was shit. Mm-hmm. He was widely, sorry, pardon my French, he was widely actually not, seen as being an immortal, amazing must-have hero when he first came out. He was quite underappreciated, and then somewhere along the line, people started going, actually, this guy's pretty freaking good. We should, what are we doing? We should all level this guy. And then now 3 years later, he's still one of the most must-have hero, like most desired heroes available. And Mickey was actually the same. When he originally came out, he wasn't, widely seen as being overly useful, because, people mainly focused in on the raid arena side of things. And, there he is pretty useless, like slow mana speed and, not actually kicking out any direct damage. His abilities only affecting tiles, which by the time he fires, you've probably killed half the enemies anyway. It wasn't until about late way through the month when people started seeing the possibilities for Titans and stuff widely in the community. And, by that stage, it was almost too late for a lot of people. So I was of that opinion as well, actually, that he wasn't any good when he first came out. And then, I was very lucky that I jagged him towards the end of the month and, saw the light, so to speak.
I'm not mildly, I'm absolutely regretting that I have Mickey Max. He's part of my Titan team, but I had fed 2 other Mickeys away thinking, well, we'll never need more than 1 Titan at a time. And now here we are years later with Mythic Titans, and I can't get my Mickeys back. But
I hung on to 2. So I've got 1 leveled and 1 at 70 at the moment, and he goes all right at the moment. But the other one that sort of bumped up his importance for having multiples was the introduction of the very fast raid tournaments, and then more recently, very fast wars, because he is absolutely insane in those arenas as well. So, it's funny how hero priorities and usefulness changes over time.
Sure.
So,
I remember. In my first year of playing, I chased the Atlantis family, and people in my alliance really got on my case about fully maxing Adamus, and he's no good. And now he's been buffed at least once, if not twice, since then, and he's a pretty powerful. Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty. He's not a game changer, but he definitely was worth the Mets. at this point. Back to Mickey, though, I want to point out that's another example of where it's really important for players to actually read the cards. So if you think of the big boosters for Titans, Mickey and Tarlac clearly state they increase the normal attack, which is the tile damage, compared to Ranveer and Wu, who increase the attack. So that applies to specials and tiles. So that's always a good thing to be aware.
The way I tend to think of it is just normal attack is anything that's inherent to the game kind of thing. And then just attack in general will apply to everything. But the other one that's worth noting on Mickey and Tarlac as well is that they actually have a cap to their effect. So it's always worth actually doing the maths and that before you go, stacking in this hero, that hero, and all of that, because you might end up not actually being able to use all of those buffs, or some of the buffs end up getting cancelled out. But anyway, there's a bit of a side detour, I guess, where I was going is don't count a hero out that you get immediately, because, things change, metas change, the hero and player perceptions change. So hang on to those heroes, because someday they may be actually useful.
Sure. Nora is one mana speed differential away from being amazing.
She is definitely,
So now that we got a little bit of a grasp, or hopefully a good grasp on the damage calculation, let's screw it up again with some more math. Let's talk about critical damage.
Yeah. So crit damage is, in my opinion, one of the most underappreciated and underrated aspects of the game. In an absolute nutshell, crit damage doubles your normal damage output for that tile. So, I mean, whatever your opinion is on it, going from 5,000 to 10,000 damage in a single tile is insane. Yes, it's not occurring every single time that you make a tile match or whatever, but if you pick up crit nodes and you equip 1 or 2 crit troops into your Titan team kind of thing, and then you take along, say, a Vela or a Greg kind of thing, all those little things up your chances of the crit damage occurring. And any of those tiles that you're slinging at that Titan outside of that weak spot get incrementally more chance of doing double damage, which is, if you can get 10 of those in a single match, you've just done 50,000 extra damage kind of thing. So it is very underappreciated in my opinion, but it is also, not as obvious as some of the other aspects of the troops and the buffs and stuff in the game.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as sexy as the mana troops, right? We get the specials up quicker, and they're exciting. They have graphics that go with them, as opposed to tiles that just blip up and say crit damage. But that number can be massive. And again, just as a caution to viewers, the crit stat across troops don't stack because of what Governor was saying earlier about how one troop is applied to a tile. So if you have three ice crit troops at 10% each, you don't have 30% chance of crit. You just get the 10% when one of them is selected.
Correct. But if you've only got the crit troops attached kind of thing, you've only got a chance for it to occur. But that is an interesting one though, in that they don't stack directly, but the more you have of them, the higher your chances of it occurring do get. But it's not, directly linear or whatever.
Right.
Like you can add them onto it. There's a thread that I made on the forum explaining crit damage, and one of the other moderators, Zephyr, he did a rundown. He cross-quoted from somewhere else, a bit of a relationship between increasing the number of crit troops you've got stacked versus how much of an increase in the chances of you having that crit occur is. So if there's any number files out there, it's worth a read on that side of things.
Yeah, there is some really great information on the forums. Look for any of these threads that we're talking about, and you can get knees deep into a lot of math and try to figure out where these things matter. So one thing that I have not seen in my reading is the relationship of the percentage from the crit troop to heroes specials that increase critical chance. Do they stack? So if you have a Malia or a Malosi that's adding critical chance? Is that directly
Yeah,
adding on to
so
the troops?
correct. Yeah. So it's and this is one of those ones which is almost impossible to actually test rigorously. But my understanding is that any of those crit buffs, so the crit node in the talent grid, anything that comes from special skills. You've also got family bonus. So the Wonderland and Avalon families have that as well. And then any of the elemental links as well. So, Grimble, Vela, JF, Telly, and Melosi. All of those buffs will stack additively with anything from the crit troop. So if you've got 10% crit troop, you apply Amelia with 36%. You've now got 46% chance for a tile to crit. You then chuck in Melosi, who adds on an extra 10%. You're now up to 56%. So, more often than not, a yellow tile from those three is going to, have crit damage on its output. So my understanding is that they are additive, but like I said, it's one of those ones which is, because it is random based, you'd need, tens of thousands of data points in order to determine that.
Yeah, rigorously. Just from a simple to understand and simple to follow, I use the Wonderland family if I'm farming season 1, just because they don't get into trouble there like they might in season 3 or 4. And when I farm so quickly, actually in season 1 and season 2, and just watching it, the amount of times that entire family does critical damage, and you're just wiping heroes out, or not heroes, enemies, the monsters. So it is a significant number when it gets added up.
Yeah, I mean, Wonderland, if you've managed to get all 5-star heroes and can chuck them into one team, chuck on some crit troops, you've got 20% base chance for each hero just from the family bonus. And then, you add on another 10%, 15% or whatever you get from your troops. And it starts to add up, because it's not just from one color tile, then it's from every tile.
So, and I'll put up the graphic here of that. You laid out a really nice graphic comparing the tile damage impact of the 3 different troops, the ninja, the critical, and the mana. I get concerned sometimes. I see other people out there professing that mana troops are the only way to go. It's the only answer. And I find with this entire game, things are situational.
They are. Yeah. I mean, like, some person might not have, a mana troop in a color. And so there's no way for them to necessarily level up a mana troop, short of, doing several hundred summons to try and get that one elusive color. But everything does, I have found that pretty much everything has a use and a place, if you're willing to explore it and find it. Even highly underrated heroes like Nor, there's some forum users that have found some very, in my opinion, very niche applications for them, but they work. That hero still works in that application. So, but yeah, in the case of crit troops, people definitely have a bit of a love affair with mana troops. And I do understand where they're coming from with mana troops. Tile breaking or mana breaking is a very powerful effect, but it's only powerful if you can get that mana break. If, your hero needs, if we go a slow hero, which has a level 17 troop to break it, if you've only got a level 16 mana troop, that troop's not going to work. Like, that's just the way it is. You're not at that break point. You're not able to reduce that hero's tiles to charge by 1 without that level 17. So in that instance, there may actually be a better troop that's going to be more useful, to your raiding style, than, a troop that's not actually going to break that mana point. So yeah, it is always worth doing a bit of digging into the troops side of things, because they do play a fairly big part in how raids play out, because they do affect not just the special skills, they affect the damage you take, and how tiles interact with the enemy team as well.
Yeah, and another part of critical troops that rarely gets talked about is another part of them besides the critical damage is they're boosting both health and defense compared to the mana troop that's boosting healing.
Yep.
And I find that
10%.
interesting. If you think about the current meta, how many people aren't using a healer on their defense team?
Yeah.
So they're not even getting that advantage from that troop. They're giving up that increased healing because there is no healing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again,
so on defense teams, it's less cut and dry kind of things, because the way defense mana generates is, well, it's not linear. Like, just put it out there right from the start. Like, you know, on attack, your mana is linked directly to the tiles. You know, 9 tiles to charge X hero, 12 tiles to charge Y hero. Like, that's the way it is. Ghosting tiles improves it by double or whatever, but you know, it's directly linked to the tiles. Whereas on defense, it goes all over the place. There's a portion of it which is linked to the tiles, but that's not linear even. You know, after you start moving into the combo attack, so X2, X3, X15, or whatever it manages to get up to, the mana generated for the defense team actually exponentially decays. So it's not like it keeps going up in a straight line where every tile that hits, you know, the tank will give them equal amounts of mana. It doesn't. So it's not as open book kind of thing on, you know, which is the best troop to equip in the defense teams. You know, so the mana troop will definitely still affect all of those means of generating mana for the defense team, but it's not like you don't need to have a level 17 equipped with a slow hero, because the break points don't exist on the defense team. It's just the more mana you can get onto the defense hero, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, you were talking about combos there, and I try to always remember to remind viewers about watching the combo attack increase. I don't think people always realize that every combo after the first basic match adds 10% onto your attack, and you'll see that come up. It'll say combo bonus 1.1% or 1.2.
Yeah.
So that's another 10%, 20%. So if you're, let's just say, attacking mono fire and you see a fire match on the board, if you can make another match ahead of that causes the fire match to match, you're going to get 10% more attack, or 20 or 30. And that's why I was just going to say, that's why if you see these big cascades, it's suddenly like the entire enemy gets wiped out. And that's because that percentage just multiplies rather quickly.
Yeah, so I think that, and I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I think that multiple is applied after the damage is calculated, if that makes sense. So it's not, it won't affect the base damage that's done, but then if you've got a 1.1x multiplier, it'll go through and do all the calculation, and it'll come out with its number, which has got its random factor included, and then it'll go, all right, 1.1 times that number, and that'll be the damage that gets shown. So it is actually a lot more linear in its increase, because it's not affected by that 1.35 power function.
All right, so let's dig in and talk about troops a little more specifically now. And we're not going to confuse things with the 2-star troops for 3-star heroes. They're pretty easy. There's an attack troop and a defense troop. I actually find the most
troop.
What's that?
Then there's a balanced troop for the 3 stars.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the 3-star troops I find to be the most confusing. And let's not dive into those. I don't think my mind is ready to handle those. Every time I look at the 3-star troops, I get a little frustrated. But let's talk about. Go ahead.
Just really simply on the 3 stars, just look at what you're going to use the hero for, and then go with the troop that's best suited to that. If you're going to level 3-star troops, is really what it is. So if you've got an attacking hero, attacking troop to them. If you've got a defense hero, attach the defensive troop to them. That's about it.
Yeah, but then they have that balanced one that's in there, and there's some crit damage. Like, I don't know. Those, I probably overthink it when I look at those.
Yeah, most of the time, 3-star troops will only get used in either the events, in which case people tend to go all out attack, or the crit one, and then in tournaments where again the troops play a part, but you know, go for realistically whatever you've got leveled.
All right, well, let's roll into a more in-depth dive then on the 4-star troops, which is what we're all using for war and raiding. and probably most of
Ultimately,
our
yeah.
maps and things. So we have the ninja option now, along with the critical troops and the mana troops. Help us understand when and where we should be using which ones. What's your advice?
It depends on how you play, realistically. So for my personal play style, I tend to raid in either 3-2 or 4-1 format. So my raid style is very much more dependent on the tiles and the tile damage than it is necessarily on the special skills. Where if you're raiding with a rainbow team, 1-1-2, so just a single color stack, or even 2-2-1 formats, chances are most of your damage isn't coming through the tiles. It's actually coming through the special skills, the bulk of it anyway. So it depends on which way you're going to go. Ultimately, though, if you can get a mana break, equip that troop. That's realistically the end goal. So for me, I try to set my teams up so that I get as many mana breaks with my troops as I have available. I'm not a huge troop spender. I don't have max level 29 troops or anything like that. My troops are much more moderate. I've got a 23 mana, an 11 mana, 11 mana, and a 10 crit, and then a level 1 ninja. So those would be my 5 troops that I've got available to me if I'm going to equip them all. So I basically try to get average speed with my level 23 when I set up my team, and then do that in 2 colors, and then try and fill out with fast heroes or slow heroes where the level 11 or the crit troop isn't going to make as much of an impact. The missing the mana troop isn't going to make as much of an impact. So, if you've got a average speed hero with a level 23 and then another average speed hero with, say, a level 11 troop attached, you're going to notice that difference when you match all your tiles and suddenly you've got one hero that's ready to fire and the other one which is literally one tile off. It's one of the most frustrating things ever. So try to build your teams in such a way that you make use of the mana breaks, but then you don't confuse yourself by having a mana broken troop and a non-mana broken hero of the same speed, because that will just annoy you. If you can't mana break a troop, basically go for what's going to give you the most complement to that hero and your raid style. So if you're a fairly passive raider, so if you like to out-survive the other team, you raid with 1, 2, or even, 3 healers or support heroes, you're probably going to want to equip more defensive troops because that's going to give you more longevity in that fight. If you're like myself, where you bring along 1 support hero and then you have 4 attackers kind of thing, then you're probably going to want to attach something more attacking. So something that's going to boost your damage output, be that either tiles or special skills. In which case you're probably looking more at, you'd think mana troops and ninja troops. But as you alluded to earlier, the crit troops actually bump out all the other troops in terms of normal damage output because of that chance to have the crit occur. So if you're looking purely at damage output on tiles-based play, so if you're running high color stacks, your crit troop of an equal level is going to be better for damage than a mana or a ninja troop of that same level. There's a graph that you can probably show, like a little picture showing that progression. But yeah, the mana troop a level 30 mana troop caps out at about 40, 45 odd damage on like just a single tile kind of thing with, average stats. Whereas, your level 30 crit troop comes out at about 49 damage on average because it can have that chance to double that damage output. So yeah, in attack, look at how you actually raid. If you're raiding very defensively, so very passively, and you're just trying to outlast them, probably go with something that's going to complement that and, give yourself a better chance of surviving. If you're more attacking, look for something that's going to complement your attack heroes. So, if you've got a AoE 5 hero, maybe look at putting a ninja troop on that hero, because then you've got 5 chances for that hero's attack to bypass the enemy's buffs. If you've got the ability to mana break, though, that's your first priority. Always try to mana break, but then try and shift your teams around and structure your team so that you're not having mana broken and non-mana broken heroes of the same speed in the team.
So what about the ninja troops? Where in what capacity would you recommend people consider the ninja troop?
In terms of leveling them,
Well,
I
just
think they're,
where to use them in the game. Like, in what
no,
scenarios would you say the ninjas might be the go-to troop?
I would say their best, and I have said this on the forum, that their best application is for multiple hitters, because then you've got multiple chances for that special skill to bypass the enemy's defense. So if you've got, say, a sniper, like, I don't know, Liana, versus an AoE 5 hero, so someone that hits all 5 enemies, like Catalan, Liana's got one chance to bypass all those defensive buffs. But Catalan, she's got 5 chances off that same special skill cast. So I would equip them to the hero that's going to have most chances to bypass the enemy buffs. In terms of Titans, you're looking more at your damage output. So maybe look at attaching them to the hero, because you're wanting essentially to get the maximum attack stat you can on Titans, and then add in some crit damage as well on some of your other heroes. So if I'll use my blue Titan team, for example, you've got Mickey, Ariel, King Arthur, Costume Magni, and Master Lepus. So I attach my mana troop to Master Lepus because he's got one of the highest attack stats in that team. And so I want to bump that even higher. My mana troop I usually give to King Arthur because I want him to mana break down as early as I can to get that ice debuff going. And then, my other troops I sort of fill in on the other 3 heroes. So yeah, I guess the ninja troops are an interesting one. I don't know if they're fully worked out in the game yet in terms of a best practice for them at this stage yet, but I think we're getting there. The other one actually is ranger troops, ranger heroes. So if you can attach a ninja troop to a ranger hero, you've got 2 chances for that hero to bypass. So if you take Finley, for example, you've got the first opportunity from his special skill, and then you've then got a secondary opportunity from the ninja troop. And I'm pretty certain those 2 don't stack, but they proc individually. So it'll like chance 1, and then if it's successful, it'll bypass. If it's not successful, it'll chance the second attempt, and then hopefully that one's successful. If not, it just goes on to the damage.
All right. So one last really hard question about troop math. Why does it take so much food and feeders to get them anywhere?
Because SG hates us. I genuinely have absolutely no idea. And this is one of the things that has annoyed me no end with this game, is why it's so hard to level troops. And it may sound cynical, but I'm just not sure that anyone at Small Giant Games actually has played their game at a high competitive level, because, this is just one of those things that just annoys late game players no end. And there's no logical explanation for it. Like, why does it need to cost 10 million food to take a troop from level 28 to level 29? Like, it just beggars belief. And to an extent, I think they have learnt from their failings in Empires and Puzzles, because they've recently released a second game into global release called Puzzle Combat. It's a whole different kettle of fish, but they have learnt from a lot of their failings in Empires and Puzzles. And one of the things they massively overhauled was the troop system. So they streamlined it a lot more, but most importantly, they made it a lot cheaper. So it now costs in Puzzle Combat about 250,000 to 350,000 food to take a weapon to maximum. And that's all the way to max kind of thing. Minus, they tweaked how it works. So it's not just straight leveling. You've got to promote the weapons as well instead. But, in terms of direct troop leveling, it's much cheaper. So I think they kind of just set it on this progression of food cost and then didn't fully factor in how much food that was actually going to cost. And they're like, oh, people will never get there. And then people got there and they hated it. So
yeah, it's painful. I laugh when players complain about how long it takes to do the last levels of a 5-star leveling. Wait until they get to the last levels of a troop.
I honestly, I just haven't bothered. I stopped my troops at 23 and I'm like, that's it. That's a day. We'll go back to the start and we'll start on another one.
Yeah,
Um,
it is, and
yeah,
there is no joy in it. It just really seems like a
no,
complete waste of resources.
yeah. So yeah, to answer the question, I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me either. It's yeah.
All right, so as an ending topic, let's circle back to the Titan Loot project.
Yep.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it was one that was sort of a curiosity of mine, and because you hear about the A plus curse and all that kind of thing, um, and all that. So I initially started off because I was like, well, I don't think there's such a thing as an A plus curse. I think it's just confirmation bias. So I'm going to test this. So I started tracking my own data, and you know, the sample size was quite small because you only get one Titan a day kind of thing. So in order to get 1,000 data points, you're going to have to play the game and track your loot for 3 years kind of thing, which you could do, or you could outsource a lot of the data farming. So I sort of set up a bit of a data collection tool and had volunteers from throughout the community sharing their data and entering it into the form. And yeah, ended up with, I don't even know how many it was. It ended up being, 4,150 entries into the project, which is a staggering amount of Titan loot that people entered in. And yeah, crunched the numbers and came out with some more statistically driven basis to what you can expect to get from Titans.
So what's the answer? Confirmation bias, or is A plus really not the best place to be?
There's no such thing. I never in all of the data there's no correlation to the grade you get. It's just that on a Titan you've got one A plus and you can have 29 or 24 C ranked people. It's there's no such thing as the A plus curse. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting findings that came out of that project. Like for example, Titan parts. It doesn't matter if you get loot tier 5 versus loot tier 18. You have exactly the same chance of getting Titan parts, like a specific Titan part. It doesn't actually increase or decrease with how well or how high a loot tier you get. But yeah, the Ascension materials was realistically the main one that people are interested in from Titans. And the bottom line is it sucks. The chances are low. Like, you're talking 1.5 through to maybe 3%, 4% chance of actually getting a 4-star material off of a Titan on any given roll. So, you kill a 14-star Titan, you get 4 rolls at 4% or whatever, and that's it. On to the next day. So it sucks. But there's a little bit of a basis behind us knowing that it sucks rather than just everyone complaining that it sucks. So yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time and diving into all this math. Is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share before we bring this to a close?
Don't know. I mean, I'm always happy to do follow-up questions down the track. I know there were some topics that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to just from a time factor. So
sure, yeah. Actually, do you want to throw something in on the dollars on summons?
Yeah, sure. I guess it's one of those ones which is how long is a piece of string kind of thing. So, if you're looking at doing summons, it's always important to go in knowing what you are doing kind of thing. So the odds are not in your favor when you do summons, just plain and simple. Chances are whatever hero you're wanting to get out, you're not going to get them unless you're willing to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars chasing after that hero. So I write forum posts for each event and for all of the heroes. And then in each of those threads, I try to lay out some of the maths in terms of the summoning stuff. So I'm just trying to navigate to one of them. If we look at the Underwild portal, so season 4, you've got a, 1% chance of getting a featured legendary hero. So to get your specific hero you're chasing, say it's Phineas Fogg or whatever, you've actually only got 0.33% chance on a single draw to get that hero. Now, that is tiny. Like, there are improbable events in your real life that are more likely to occur than you drawing that hero off a single summon. So, like, you know, if you're chasing after Phineas Fogg, for example, you're looking at, over the course of 500 summons, which will cost you on average $1,428 ex tax, and you've still only got an 80% chance of getting him. So there's a 20% chance that you will have spent $1,500 and still not gotten the hero you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where, before you go into a portal, look at the chances of you getting what you're actually after, kind of thing. And then, you know, jump on the forum, have a look at the maths that's actually there. Like, you know, I write it there for a reason. It's there
Mm-hmm.
to sober you up. Like, you know, you see someone, they do a 10x and they manage to get 5 featured heroes. You know, that is not the norm. That is going to be a once in a billion chance that that's going to happen to you, kind of thing. Like, you're more likely to go out, buy a lottery ticket and win the lottery Division 1 on your own than for that to occur again. Like, it's just staggering. And there's this whole thing around summons, and there's other YouTubers that have done entire series on this whole thing with summoning and the psychology behind it. But for some reason, humans see those pools and they're like, oh, that can happen to me. And they go off, spend a ridiculous amount of money, get nothing for it, and are surprised when that happens. And it's like, well, that happened to that person. Why couldn't it happen to me? It's like, the math says it's not going to happen to you. If it does, you got lucky. So it's one of those ones which, you know, set your budget, go in with your eyes open, knowing that you're probably not going to get whatever you want, and be prepared for that and be prepared to walk away. So, you know, I wrote another thread and I titled it, I literally put it in capitals letters, called "Warning: A Summons Experience for Chasing a Hero." And, you know, the hero in question was Guardian Panther. So she's the only purple elemental debuffer. I tried several times previously to get Guardian Panther. I probably spent, you know, several thousand summons over the course of 3 years trying to get this one, or maybe not several thousands, maybe 1,000 summons, kind of thing, trying to get this one hero. And even at 1,000 summons, you know, you're still not guaranteed to get that hero. There is no guarantee in any of this stuff that you're ever going to get the hero you're wanting to get, kind of thing. So
yeah, the logic is, like I said, the logic is you're not going into a summons, you're going into a casino, and you should use the same protective thought patterns.
Exactly.
You know, you go into a casino, this is how much money I'm going to lose, and I'm not going to get the jackpot.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. Like, you know, you're not, chances are when you walk into the summons, or as you said, into a casino, whatever you put in is staying in that building. You're not going to get it back. And even with summons, like, you know, I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on summons and then throw the game away. Like, you know, you've literally just thrown all that money away.
Yep.
Because you weren't aware that the chances of you getting what you wanted is so low. Like,
and when you said about people posting, and I'm guilty of this too. I have a great summons and I post it, and frankly, I do it just because nobody wants to see 60 summons of nothing.
Exactly.
Like, but
exactly.
Those posts, I think we all got to keep in mind, that is the equivalent of going into the casino where they have the pictures up of the people with the big check. They don't take a picture of the 10,000 people that went through the casino the last week that walked out penniless.
Lost their money.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
So, well, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for making yourself available for this. I know people are going to really be interested in your math and everything you contributed to this conversation about the game. So, and thank you for everything you do on the forums. And moderating that has got to be a beast. So thank you for your time on that.
It is at times.
All right. Thanks, Governor. We will see you on the battlefield.
No worries. Thanks, mate.